What's going on? This is your boy GC3, and I'm in the place to be. I don't know, wherever that place is, all over. That's all I could say. Coming across the West Coast. But anyways, this is episode number 46. And you know what? We're about the midseason. So I feel like today would be a great opportunity to do a midseason report. So with that being said, I have to bring on my guy who's been there for me, been supporting me since day one, and he's holding down Southern Arizona for me. So without further ado, here is my guy, Coach Vince Lombardi. Coach, how you doing this afternoon?
GC3, how are you?
I'm
See that
hanging in
shirt?
there.
See that shirt I got on today? We're going to talk
Wow.
about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end. I'm really looking forward to the new exciting news about the Fab 100 we got going on in about a month or two.
Yeah, and then we got besides that, you have another announcement. Shout out to Big City Hoops, our guy, Coach Lou Roberts, out of Nevada. But yeah, we'll talk about that later in the show. So let's talk about mid-season. So across the country, we're at mid-season. We're kind of leaning towards the last two legs of the season because now we got conference games, region games, and I decided to come up with my team rankings, which people may disagree, and that's fine. Like I said, everybody we live in the United States of America, so everybody has their own opinion, and I'm pretty sure you may disagree with me too, but that's okay because again, now we can put it on the teams to hey, prove me wrong or prove us right, or and whatnot. So with that being said, we're going to start with the Open. We're going to start with the AIA Big School Open Division. And here is my Power Five right now. If I were to punch in the rankings, would be my Power Five, which I have South Point Catholic at number one, Mesquite at number two, Gilbert at number three, Millennium at number four, and Sunny Slope at number five. What are your thoughts on this? Since we have, I have the Southern Arizona team on the top. But what are your thoughts about South Point, Coach?
So South Point is number one as well in the power rankings. So obviously they've had a very tough schedule. So even though they got two losses there, they played a really, really tough schedule. They went out to Hawaii, which I think you're going to talk about in a minute. They did pretty well out there. They beat Millennium a couple weeks ago, which was a big win for them. And for me, George, it seems like South Point's starting to put everything together at the right time. Obviously they're without Talia Henderson, one of the top, maybe the top player in the state for 2025 because with an injury, the North Carolina commit. But the other players they're loaded and they're deep. They go literally 8-9 deep on their bench. So they're legit and they're putting it together at the right time. So let me ask you this. So one of their losses is to Mesquite. So I'm sure people are going to say, well, how would you put South Point over Mesquite? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are they were early in the season. Again, nothing to take nothing away from Mesquite. I mean, Mesquite, I really like a player on there, and I'll discuss it when we get into, when we get to their section. But, I thought they fared very well out in Hawaii. They went 2-1. They played in the Honolulu Showcase, which I helped put together with all the ILH schools, the Interscholastic League of Honolulu schools. They beat the defending state champ in Iolani, and they took care of Punahou, but kind of ran into a freight train in Kamehameha, which we'll discuss and get into it with them as well.
And you're talking about South Point right now, right? South Point.
Yes, I'm talking about South Point right now. Correct. And the two players I feel like make the biggest impact are going to be Sydney Anderson and Hannah Williams. And Hannah has to play inside. Naturally, she's a wing, but she's having to go inside and help protect the paint and rebound as well. And Sydney is just off the ball, and she does real well. Again, those two, Sydney committed to Grand Canyon University and signed there, and Hannah committed to and signed to NAU. So definitely their 1-2 punch. But let's talk about their roster because they are deep, and I know their roster deeper, as well. So
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head. So Hannah's having to play, with Leah out. Talia had good size with her too. So Hannah's having to play forward, play against other teams' bigs, and that may limit her scoring a little bit, but she's still the catalyst of that team, in my opinion. Just she does a little bit of everything. Sydney Anderson is one of the best shooters I've seen come out of Southern Arizona in a long, long time. She is legit sniper from three. She's really got a nice technique and touch on her shot, and she can hit open shots regularly. So those two obviously lead the way, but a couple that maybe under the radar a little bit. JC Nelson is running the point for them. She's just a sophomore. She's got really good poise for a sophomore. She against Millennium, against the press, Millennium was up on him by almost 10, I think, early, and South Point settled down. I think JC had a lot to do with that, being in control with the ball, and she can hit shots too. So she's a really solid player that plays a good, critical role for them. And then Ariana Kolash, who is probably a prototype power forward, small forward. She's a sophomore as well. She's a good rebounder. She's a good defender, and that gives them some depth. So those two in particular kind of stood out to me. And like I said, I think they're starting to hit on all cylinders right now, which is making them a very dangerous team as we get into the last couple of weeks of the season.
No, that's a great, summary. I mean, again, I love Ariana Kolash. I love Nelson. Again, I think they're going to have the depth to propel. But you know what? We still got two more legs of the season, and moving to number 2, Mesquite beat them early in the season, and led by senior Neve Guidry, and Molly Fisher also complements her game. But Guidry is she's one of the most underrated, under-recruited players in the state. I honestly, from watching her play, she has the athleticism, the size. She's playing out of position. She's naturally a shooting guard, small forward, can play both positions, but she's, being one of the bigger players on the team, has to do what she needs to do to help her teams compete. And, I believe she's worthy of she could be a mid-major prospect, in my opinion, just super under the radar. And let's move forward to number 3, Gilbert. So Gilbert, I think, is peaking kind of at the right time. It seems like, new coach, new system, very familiar with Savannah Biggs, did a heck of a job there at Poston Butte High School here in Santan Valley, Arizona. And she has the catalyst of I call them the Fantastic Four, which you got Aspen McLeese, Tylea Wiley, the point guard, and then 2 other guards in Tessa and Bella Ivy, the Ivy sisters. So, they got some big wins. They're sitting at 10-2. They definitely got a gauntlet of a schedule ahead of them. I mean, all these teams, it's just, every game matters. And, I believe they're the number 3 team. Like I said, from what I saw, love that team. Love McLeese, Wiley, and the 2 Ivy sisters. And it's going to be a really it'll be a crazy finish for sure in the open division.
And one of their losses, George, was by 2 points to Mesquite. So everybody, they seem to be a team that's kind of clicking on all cylinders right now too. They've strung together like 8 wins in a row or so, something like that. So they seem to be hitting right at the right time too.
All right, the next team, I got to bring in is perennial powerhouse Millennium. Coach Solomon is doing a phenomenal job there, as he always does. And the one big name that stands out on the roster, who I was able to see a lot during club season, is Kaishi Lunin. I mean, she's just a phenomenal player. just a gym rat, a superior athlete, and just makes plays, makes the right plays at the right time. And, super excited. She's had a really great career. To compliment her is, uh, you know, I apologize if I butcher this name, is Dashia Richardson, who I know you were able to see her. What are your thoughts about Richardson?
Yeah, so when I saw them play South Point a couple weeks ago, she was knocking down shots. I mean, she was really kind of. I don't remember how much Kaishi scored that game. I know that South Point was focusing on her a lot. Kaishi did score, but I think Richardson really was the one that was the most impressive scoring wise for them, because I did not expect that. But she's a really good shooter. She can shoot mid range. She can shoot from the three. And then Mariah Brownlee, the freshman, the heralded freshman, she played well. That's freshman. That's a big jump from 14U to or middle school to high school varsity and playing a team like South Point. But Mariah played really well. She was a good defender. She was a good ball handler. You can tell she's got all the skills. She's just, her time's coming. But those three in particular stood out to me for Millennium. They're going to make a run, when it comes playoff time. So they should be in the mix.
All right. And the last team that I had to slide in, which I've yet to go and see them play, but, they got some players. I mean, again, to touch on Sunny Slope, Sunny Slope has rich basketball history on the boys' side. And, now the girls are really pushing. And, I have to bring up my guy, Royce Woolridge, legendary player that played over there at Sunny Slope. He done a phenomenal job. And for those who don't know, still the youngest player in Kansas, University of Kansas history to sign and commit there. He did his first 2 years at Kansas, and then he transferred to Washington State before he took a grad transfer here by coming home to go play for Dan Marley at GCU when they transitioned to Division One. So talking about their players, or two players that have emerged in the stat line is Kylie Rarick and Maggie Luba. And again, Sunny Slope, they're just, that neighborhood is a tough area. They have some tough kids, and they have some really big wins under their belt. So, I think they're more than deserving of the number 5 in the number 5 ranking in the GC3 Hoops Open Division Power 5 rankings. So,
And a big win last week, right?
absolutely, yeah. They beat Millennium. So.
Mm-hmm.
In a close game. So again, I want to see them prove themselves this last 2 legs of the season. And the next, we're gonna go on a commercial break here. So you and I, coach, can catch our breath. But we got another set of rankings to talk about after this commercial break. So stay tuned, everybody. Come check out the GC3 Apparel Fall Sale. We got single-side uniforms for $40, reversible uniforms for $60, no art fee, and a 2 to 3 week turnaround time. For more information, contact 480-387-7744 or check out gc3apparel.com. All right. So here's our next batch of rankings, which will stir it up a little bit. Let's talk about the GC3 Hoops Copper Division Power 5, which is the new open division for small schools. Number 1, I have Chin Lee, who has a near perfect record of 16-0. I was able to see them this summer, which they fared very well at the Summer Invitational at Dobson High School, where they went 3-1. But right now, the Wildcats are 16-0. Moving forward to the Miami Vandals, who were the 2A runner-up last year, and they're 13-0. They recently had a huge win over Phoenix Country Day School, and are deserving of the number 2 ranking. Number 3, I got Phoenix Country Day, the defending 2A state champs. They had a huge win over San Carlos this Saturday, giving them their first win, or their first win back from dropping that game against Miami and the following week, and then giving St. Carlos their first loss. Number 4, I do have the St. Carlos Braves. Again, the Lady Braves have done a phenomenal job. Coach Al Antonio does a great job up there, and they're going to be looking to bounce back this week. And number 5, I know this may be very controversial, but they're coming off of a huge week. I got to give it out to my guy Aaron Monteverdi there, Coolidge High School, coming in number 5. They're 10-3. They had 2 huge wins. One win against perennial powerhouse Seton Catholic, and they beat the number 2 AIA number 2 Copper Division ranked team in. No, I apologize. The 3A number 2 team, which was Push Ridge Christian Academy. So going back, let's talk about the Chinley Wildcats. So 2 players that really stand out is Dazoon White and Koa Yazi. I mean, Coach, I remember you were able to watch in the summer. What are your thoughts? I mean, I feel that the Wildcats with Coach McCurtain over there, they're well coached. They get after it, and their gym atmosphere is very hard to win at. And besides that, every game for them is a home game because that Chinley crowd travels. They'll travel by the hundreds and the thousands.
Yeah, and if you look at their scores, George, that may be making a big difference. A lot of their games are very close. So one, the crowd's probably getting involved and helping them, energize them towards the end of the game. And the other is, obviously they're well coached because, like I said, I was looking at their scores earlier, and they've got several games where they could have went either way that they're coming out on top. So that says that they're well coached, and again, that's a very tough environment to go to. That's one that you and I got to go to together. I am going to go down to San Carlos and Miami later on this year, but I want to go catch a game at Chinley too. But they are tough, George, always, and they are going to be hard to beat when it comes playoff time.
Absolutely. Number 2 team, the Miami Vandals. Again, shout out to Coach Crystal Pitola, her husband and myself and her, that whole family. We've just been friends over the years. They've been very supportive of my platform. And, they're at a perfect 13-0 record. And the last big win they had was against Phoenix Country Day, as well as beating a really solid Pima team. So, 3 players, again, that kind of anchor that team are Demetra Dosello, who's a really good stretch 4. Again, another under-the-radar kid that's starting to pick up on her recruiting. And Coach's daughter is Savannah Pitola and Mia Pitola. Savannah, too, her recruiting is starting to heat up. But, I'm still waiting for Mia's to continue to heat up because she did have some Division I interest early on, and I believe she could be a solid D2 or low major prospect when it's all said and done. The next team, which is number 3, is the defending 2A state champs, Phoenix Country Day School. Earlier in the season, they had a huge win over Xavier Prep, who's the defending Open Division champ, big school. And they're led by 2 really solid prospects in Isla Cabara and Olivia Owens. Isla committed to NYU and signed there, and Owens she signed with UC San Diego. So definitely, I know moving forward they're going to make the adjustment, and they're going to bring their A game moving forward because they want that ring, and they just know what it takes to get there. The next team at number 4 at 14-1 are the San Carlos Lady Braves, and their triple threat is Alicia Cutter, Malia Antonio, and Kylie Wan. And both Malia and Alicia they participated in the last year's Fab 100. So, what are your thoughts about Alicia, Coach?
Yeah, so Lisi we got to see at the Fab 100, and then she San Carlos came to another tournament that you had in the summer, so we've seen her a lot. She's an under the radar player, George. She should be getting a lot more interest in recruiting. So hopefully that heats up for her. She is an excellent shooting guard, two guard, maybe small forward at some point, but she can really shoot. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was her basketball IQ. She makes really good passes at critical moments. She's a very unselfish player and, really good shooter from 3 and mid range. She's really solid. She was last year's region player of the year. So, she definitely is one of the better 2A players in the state. And don't count San Carlos out yet, George. They still have Miami at home. If they can come up with a win over Miami, that's going to set them up, in this division in particular, at a pretty good seed.
And I agree. They have that tradition. Again, for people who don't know, Coach Pitola from Miami, she's from San Carlos. She was a coach there years ago. Both her husband and her were, her husband was a football coach and she was the girls' basketball coach there years ago. So there's a lot of tradition, which makes that matchup later next month. I apologize. We're still in January. Later next month is going to be a very, very good game. Very, very interesting game. The last team, which people may scratch their heads, is Coolidge. I'm sorry, I gotta show love because they're having a phenomenal season. Coach Aaron Monteverde's a phenomenal young coach. He's been doing it for a while. I had the opportunity to coach against him years ago, and I believe, Coach, don't hold me to this, but I believe we played each other 4 times, and I'm still 3-1 against you. So, but anyway, I got to give you the spotlight and the love right now. Coolidge came off of a huge week beating, Seton Catholic, which is probably has the best coach in the state in Coach Karen Self. She's definitely a legend, been doing it for so long. And then they also beat the number 2 ranked team in 3A, which is Push Ridge Christian Academy, and their triple threat are going to be Alacia and Alana White, who are sisters, and Nelissa Charles, who I was able to get to see them front and center at the fall at my I apologize, my Stellar 6 fall league, which I had at LFPA, and they won the fall league. They're just super athletic. They're gritty. They get after it. And again, besides that, his team is just loaded with a lot of athletic kids who play very physical, and they'll get after you. They'll press you and force teams to make bad decisions. And then they also know how to capitalize on those bad decisions. So anyway,
the
what do you think, Coach? I mean, I've tried my best on this Power 5 for the Copper, but I'm gonna stick to my guns. I think I'm pretty close.
Well, you know how it goes, George. There's always going to be, varying opinions, but you have seen pretty much every team that we've talked about so far. I've seen a lot of them, so we're going off of it's our opinion, and everybody's going to have a different opinion. One thing I was going to say about Coolidge, that the power ranking right now does not show their win over Push Ridge, I believe, for their power points. So that's going to shoot them up quite a bit.
Absolutely. And again, I'm going off of my notes and who I see. And like I said, this is where I'm at. If I was given the opportunity to come up with their rankings for the playoff system. But anyways, let's take a little bit of a break, before we get into the last segment, which is really cool because over the last 2 years, I've been able to cover Hawaii quite a bit. So we'll be back after this message. Got bugs out of this world? Have no fear. Free Yourself Pest Control is here. Give Derek a call at 480-580-1549 for your free estimate today. Again, please support Free Yourself Pest Control as they sponsor and support local communities and youth sports events. All right, and we're back. So over the last 2 years, I've been able to have the opportunity to go cover Hawaii, which is an uncharted territory for women's basketball. And here's my Power Five. I mean, they're a lot later in the season than everybody else. Their season should probably end by the ending of February. But anyways, number one I have is my alma mater, the Kamehameha Kapalama Lady Warriors at 18-1. And Coach Pua Wright is doing she's doing a phenomenal job with that program. You know, they were runner up last year, and lost to a really well coached and talented Iolani squad. Number two, I have the Iolani Raiders at 14-9. Number three, I got the Kahuku Red Raiders at 12-2. Number four, I have the Kona Waina Lady Wildcats at 19-3. And then I have at number five, I have the Marino Lady Spartans at 12-8, who's actually the Division Two defending state champs, which they moved up to Division One. So in Hawaii, we don't have there's no open division. There's only Division One and Division Two, with Division One being the top division. So I've been able to watch Kamehameha the last couple years, and you know, their only loss was a very close loss in the Mua Invitational championship to Modern Day, which is a powerhouse out of California. And they were able to beat the Open Division, my number one team in the Open Division, the South Point Catholic Lady Lancers. They beat them by nearly 20 points. So, you know, talking about Kamehameha, you know, there's four kids that really stand out every game, night in, night out. That's center Nahoa Dunn, who's I'm surprised that nobody's really looking at her. You know, she's starting to prove that she can contribute and play at a high level, even against Division One talent. Then I got to bring up guards Riley Paranata, Riley Kabuyadao Caswell, and Mackenzie Alapai. Again, Kamehameha is very deep. And they're looking to push the envelope and try to get a state championship this season. My next team is going to be the Iolani Raiders, who's a defending multi-time Division One state champs. I mean, I believe they won the last 5 or 6. So you know, Kamehameha is trying to get after that dynasty, but they have a solid young core in Justice Kekaoha, who's a point guard, long. You know, currently has offers from Long Beach State and the University of Hawaii. Rhea Soriano, who's a freshman sensation, another guard, and Haley Fernandez. So, you know, Iolani, you can't count them out. Coach Dean Young is probably one of the best basketball tacticians in the state of Hawaii. And there's a reason why he continuously figures out ways to win that state title year in, year out. The next team is going to be the Kahuku Red Raiders from the North Shore, and that's where I grew up. And Coach Lombardi, you were able to see a couple of these kids that played for my GC3 Stars team this past summer. And, you know, their top 4 kids are Makana Kamake Aina, who's just a solid forward prospect that just cleans the glass and just scores anytime the team needs a bucket. Point guard Popo Wiley, who is their senior leader. She does a phenomenal job. Popo's sister is actually the head coach, Tavy Wiley. And then Popo's oldest sister, Latoya, is her and I grew up together really close. We used to train together. You know, their dad was my first basketball coach. And then she has her 2 nieces, Lele Wiley Ava and Silla Wiley Ava, which just complement the entire team. I mean, this team's very physical. And I know Canyon View was able to play them at the Mua Invitational, and, you know, they were very impressed with their size and skills. The next team I got is the Kona Waina Lady Wildcats, and Coach Bobby Ava is probably one of the best coaches in the state. She's been doing it for a very long time. Has produced a lot of Division One prospects, as well as won handfuls of state titles. But 2 players to kind of keep their eye on keep for college coaches and everybody else to keep an eye on is Michaela Salazar Harrell and Kiile Leleini. So, are they're 1-2 punch, and they're deep. They're well coached. I think anybody can step on at any given night, and she's going to come. Coach Bobby Alva is going to do her job, and they're going to come. They're going to peak at the right time during the state playoffs. Number 5 is the Division II defending state champs, which they made that move to Division I. Another legendary coach, Coach Chico Furtado, one of the state's best coaches to ever do it. Has been coaching, even when I was little. I grew up watching his teams on TV. But their 1-2 punch is going to be Pua Harrington, who is a long guard that's just a 3-level scorer, playmaker. She defends well. And then a long-range bomber in Haley Perez, who can hit those threes. So, again, this is definitely, I'll be following the Hawaii high school season from up here. I'm so grateful that my dad gives me the opportunity to log in on his cable credentials, so I'm able to watch all their games televised. But, we're going to pivot to the next part of our show. Coach Lombardi, let's talk about Fab 100.
Fab 100. So George, I'm really excited to hear, that it's coming up again this year. Last year was the very first, the initial Fab 100. We had literally the top 40 or so girls or let me put it this way, 40 of the top players in the state at that event. It was loaded. There was a lot of good talent, and you could see a lot of those kids that were there are really making a big impact this year for their particular teams. And so my estimate, George, because of how successful it went, it's going to be a much bigger this year. So people, if you are considering, you want exposure and you want to come to an event where you're testing your skills against, some of the best players in the state and see how you can, play against some of the top players, this is the event to be to or come to.
Yeah. So, last year we had, again, not to knock anybody else who does, camps or showcases, but this was kind of a combination of everything, together. It was a camp and a showcase. Here's the itinerary for this year. Student athletes are going to check in, and they're going to have a 90-minute skill session with this year we have the Phoenix College Lady Bear staff that's going to be facilitating the skills session, and it's also hosted there at Phoenix College. And then during that time of skills, we're going to have a parent seminar put on by keynote speaker Chris Rivers. And for people who don't know who Chris Rivers is, he's a former executive grassroots director for Adidas, and he's been involved in some big time high level talent. But now he's using all of his experience and his wisdom and knowledge to give back and be a motivational speaker. But last year parents were able to gain great interaction, information on how they can support their student athlete. So, right now, early bird special is $100. It will go up to $125, and I'm confident it will sell out. So going back to the itinerary, after the 90-minute skill session, we're going to get right into the parent seminar is going to be happening. Then we're providing lunch. Student athletes will have lunch, have a little bit of a break, and then they were going to begin their seminar session with Chris Rivers. And that's just some mental training and also information and support for these student athletes on the recruiting process. And the last part of the event is going to be the games, which athletes will be guaranteed 2 games. So they're going to have 2 games to play in front of college coaches who will be in attendance, as well as local, regional, and national scouts. including ourselves. And we will be there to evaluate, players. So I know last year, again, Coach Lombardi was a huge part of that event in helping promote it and helping provide some content and media coverage as well as evaluation. So again, we hope to have you guys back again this spring. It's going to be on March 22nd, which is a Saturday, 1-day event at Phoenix College. Registration info, just look up my Instagram, instagram.com/at GC3 hoops. There's a QR code. It's pinned to the top of my profile, and you'll be able to register. So I would highly suggest you take advantage of the early bird special before it bumps up to $125.
Yeah. So George, just to add a few things to what you just said. One, I remember a lot of the parents that I had spoken to after they met with Chris Rivers, they were just blown away. Lot of information about the recruiting process, about being a parent of a high level athlete. Some of the pitfalls that can come up, and some of the things that he would advise to do or not to do. And he was just, and then when he met with the kids, it was awesome. So he really is worth the price of admission just to hear what he has to say and pass along that knowledge. And there's not very many showcases that do that sort of thing. And the other thing I wanted to say was the girls that came to the showcase, we were able to see them, evaluate them, but we're also able to follow them throughout the year. A lot of those players, now that we know who they are, it's familiarity. So we've been, I in particular, and I know you do too, we do go out of our way to follow up on those kids, to see how they're doing, to go see their games, to get media coverage on them. So that's another added bonus to coming to these events. And that's what we're talking about, exposure. There's a lot of kids that don't get that type of exposure. You're going to get seen by college coaches, but you're also going to be, we're going to be covering kids throughout the year, heavily. So that's a big part of it.
So last year, let's bring up that young lady last year. She didn't even make our cream of the crop game. However, she showed some potential. She stood at 5'9". She was long, athletic. She showed a lot of potential. She had a great work ethic, great attitude. And that's Anahi Nunez. And, she was one of the unsigned seniors that attended. And I got a call later that afternoon, and I'm going to bring her onto the podcast soon to talk about her experience at the Fab 100. But without, she had no recruitment, nobody would, she went to a very small charter school, and so happened to I had a Division II that called me, and that's Jessup University up in Northern California. Their assistant called me. He's like, "Hey, I have a scholarship, opportunity available for a student athlete. Who's your best available? I need one right now, preferably, a long wing." And I had that conversation with Coach, and now Anahi, she's up there, up in Rockland, California, Jessup University, which is a Division II, and majoring in nursing. So just that experience. But the last segment of the show, let's talk about what we got going on here in a couple of months on Memorial Day. I mean, just exciting big news.
So the Memorial Day Bash. So Lou Roberts, who runs Big City Hoops, he's based out of Vegas. Does a lot of tournaments in Phoenix, a lot of tournaments in Vegas. He's done some big events in LA. We're gonna bring him to Tucson. We're gonna hold a tournament in Tucson, and we're already in the works talking about a couple more events throughout the year. Lou brings a level of expertise and credibility. He also is very well connected. He's an assistant coach at Bishop Gorman in Vegas, which most people know is probably the top high school in Las Vegas for football and basketball. So he's very well connected, and he's a great guy. And we want to put some events in, particularly in Tucson, some quality events, give people a a new format or different format, something new that they haven't experienced before. We're going to be at the Sporting Chance Center in Tucson, which is an awesome facility. It's got 5 courts, all wood floors, scoreboards, good seating, very nice facility. So we're excited about having Lou come down and getting this up and running. And I know that you're going to be there, and we're hoping that this will be the first of many to come.
Well, and I just got to call out Southern Arizona and Tucson. I mean, like, open your eyes. I'm gonna tell you right now. I have I have a list, and I've lost track of the list of how many student athletes that I personally made calls to college coaches to get them recruited. I mean, one of the most recent ones was a Chol Magat, who played for you, coach, and nobody even knew who she was. And I said, well, and you asked me what my honest assessment was. I made calls, and there she's at Texas Tech. Even though it was funny, even her commitment and signing, people still didn't believe she was going to Texas Tech. I just said, hey, you know what? Read it and weep. I mean, it's, she's there now. She's not on the roster. Got her school paid for. So, again, I urge the Southern Arizona community, hey, you got to support this event. Make sure you get there. I can't speak on behalf of any other tournament promoters in the South, but all I know is I'm going to be in there, and even with Coach Lombardi's expertise in navigating the recruiting process and the connects he got, as well as Coach Lou Roberts. He's one of the most respected dudes in the Southwest region. I've been to his events and met him, and he's connected with a lot of the scouts, the national scouts that I'm connected with. So, it's just awesome that I'll be able to be there and be a part of that event, and help support Coach Lombardi with, Elevate Sports promotions, and as well as Southern Arizona, Hoops Review to help promote the talent that's coming up in Southern Arizona.
Yeah, and George, you hit kids want exposure, right? And this is what we're providing. And when we say exposure, we're not kidding. You just rattled off about 30 or so teams that you've seen personally and evaluated. You've named several players on each of those teams that you've seen personally. When we say that we're out covering, we are out covering. We know teams, we know players, and we also have good connections with college coaches. So we are trying to give kids opportunities to help them bridge that gap between someone not knowing you at all and being able to go to college and get your college paid for and play some basketball. So it's here for you. We're here. So hopefully I think this event's going to be big. We've already got several commitments, and I think this will be one of many, like I said.
Well, and it goes back to it. There's a short list that I can think of right now. No knock to anybody of scouts that are in Arizona that have actually traveled out of state to watch and evaluate talent. So when I say a kid is if I feel a kid's a mid-major, low major, or even just a small college prospect, I'm pretty dead on, because I'm able to evaluate players across the country, not just here in my state. So, I know what it looks like. And again, no knock to anybody, but I know, there's no shortcut in this business. I'm not going out there and reading other people's evaluations and recycling them, or it's again, parents, they need to know, and I hope you guys do your research. Again, there's a lot of people in this business who are fake, and it's all a money grab. But whatever I say I'm doing, that I'm going to do, I execute it at a high level. I actually walk the walk. So again, thank you all for the support. Again, this wraps up number 46. Coach Lombardi, thank you so much again. This was an amazing midseason report. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Seeing you soon, and lots of good stuff coming up soon, George. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. So again, that's number 46. Thank you all for the love and support. Peace out.